Hey everyone, so before we get into the video, I just wanted to announce a name change. I am no longer Tiffany Cherie, I am Tiffany Gray, and it is entirely inspired by Gandalf the Grey. I am not Gandalf the Grey, I am Tiffany the Graying. Really though, I think it's just easier to pronounce. Just wanted to keep it simple, so on with the video. Hey everyone. So today I wanted to talk about fat fetishism. I'd love to know y'all's thoughts, so as usual there's going to be timestamps in the description box below, and please no hate to anyone we're talking about. So on the topic of fetishization. Fetishization is like seeing an aspect of someone's identity and really reducing them down to that category and making that the subject of your desire or preference. It's like you're meeting someone's feature before you meet that person. And the person doing the fetishization, is that correct? Has no real invested interest in you outside of that. Like their investment in you would kind of go away if you didn't have that one aspect that they were kind of putting on a pedestal.
Actually, yes, you do, Joe. You like BBWs. What's wrong with him? It's not a fetish if you like a big woman, okay? Big women are where it's at, man. Honestly, weight can be lost. Exactly, Lucky Lola. Wait, if you like a girl because she's big, yeah, you're a feeder if you like big women. And it's usually other big people who say this. Make it make sense in my head, please.
Yes, like there is more to you than your weight, but if there's more to you than your weight or being like obese or being fat, then why is that not a red flag if someone only wants to hook up with you just because you're fat or they want to keep you in an obese state? What's interesting to me is that the person is seeing just the one aspect of this obese person's identity, but you have another level to the relationship or the desire, whether it's spoken or not, that really relies on like a power balance or imbalance. This comes up a lot in feederism, for example. Even if the feedee is being demanding and ordering the feeder around, at some level, the feedee is reliant or going to be reliant on the feeder when it comes to food, when it comes to issues regarding mobility or their health. Even if you take feederism out of the equation and just look at the whole umbrella term of fat fetishism, I still feel like there's this weird balance of power. If you're looking at the relationship or situation from a wellness perspective, someone would say, well, clearly there's an enabler here. Whether the acts or things they're doing in this relationship are sexual in nature, there's clearly someone enabling the other person to gain or maintain their weight at an unhealthy level. We see it all the time on my 600-pound life. Like, it's very obvious that there is an enabler in the situation. I don't think it's healthy to want to be someone's caregiver at the end of the day due to a health issue that person can change and be in control of just because it's a sexual preference. Because when you switch the perspective of looking at the relationship or situation, not from a wellness perspective, but from a sexual desire or like a preference or a kink, that's often what it gets dismissed as. It's like, oh, it's just my preference. It's just, I just like 400, 300, 500 pound people. I feel another red flag as far as the gaining or maintaining weight, again, that we see often on shows like My 600-Pound Life, is that the enabler will say, well, I don't want them to lose weight, or the relationship will end when the person ends up getting the operation or losing weight on their own or whichever. I feel like it's more than just getting off to bigger women. It's like you're getting off to being someone's caregiver, being an enabler.
Something else to consider as well is that whether it is a preference that someone has for a kink, so something that's not really considered vanilla, versus a fetish, like something that someone sexualizes that we don't traditionally see as a sexual thing. It's possible that those kinks or fetishes can be discovered throughout the relationship together in a healthy way. Even when it comes to, for example, BDSM, there is a lot of consideration about safety, and their identities usually don't revolve around that kink or fetish. And typically the relationship is not contingent on it in such a way that an unhealthy way of living is expected to be maintained for the relationship to survive. A lot of fat fetishism is not just in the bedroom. In order to fulfill that, it has to be maintained full time.
Something else that I've noticed in a lot of these situations, and typically it is women, or at least that's what I'm seeing a lot of online and in media. I noticed that a lot of these women's identities end up being based in what they perceive to be positive stereotypes due to their obesity being fetishized.
Now, I want to talk about hashtags. I think hashtags are really interesting because they started out as a tool for search functions, and they've really evolved to reflect different meanings and uses that reflect our communication and our language. Hashtags could be considered like a paralanguage feature. It complements our message to help our meaning of whatever we're trying to say. They've really evolved from just a single relevant word to sometimes full statements, sometimes they indicate sarcasm. And the grouping of hashtags isn't always just technical, as in a search function. I found it interesting here on Instagram, you can see many hashtags that are direct and trying to reach a certain target audience. But when you see the other hashtags that they are grouped with, you can see the full context and the message that the poster is trying to put out there. And I believe it's really indicative of the group of people who they are trying to reach. I've seen a lot of fat activists get really possessive and almost gatekeep the body positive hashtags, saying that before and after pictures are not allowed. So when we see this literal intersection between the body positive hashtags and fetish related hashtags, I find it interesting that there is such a direct example that we can point to that I think reflects the conversations that are being driven, where before and after photos are not deemed appropriate by fat activists or people who claim to be body positive, but fetishizing content is okay. I also think it's going to be really easy to continue to convince yourself that staying unhealthy and in unhealthy relationships, for example, with someone who is enabling you to not take care of your wellness, is a good thing when you're conflating it with body positive rhetoric, as can be seen and reflected in the grouping of these hashtags.
I really feel like the lines are blurred between loving your body and being positive about your body and being, okay to go out in public wearing what you want, or being on a bikini in the beach, like just existing as an obese person, versus putting your body out there in a way that doesn't serve you, but rather catering to those who are fetishizing you or gawking at you. And there always tends to be this very sexual undertone to it. Just because the target audience isn't fat phobic people, or just because you're getting comments that are not just from people who might be fat phobic and insulting you for your weight, doesn't mean that it's necessarily healthy either. Like if you are more than just your fat rolls or your body in the face of fat phobia, then why aren't you also more than just your curves or your obesity or your fat body in the face of people who are fetishizing you? I'm not talking about people who do work on OF, by the way. And I wanted to note that if someone is doing sex work or fetish work, obviously I think that's perfectly fine, as long as they're taking care of themselves mentally, physically, etc. But so long as it's on the proper venue, such as OF. I don't think Instagram and TikTok are necessarily the appropriate platform for what is essentially like soft fetish videos, or that's at least like the intent. Again, just because you slap the hashtag body positivity on it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not a fetishized video. It's really obvious that Instagram and TikTok are going to reach more people, but there is something to be said about why you're choosing to try to reach more people on platforms where there's a lot more people, as opposed to sticking to only fetish websites. And I'm not saying that you can't be sexual or like show your body in, like lingerie or bikini. But I think people need to be conscious of when they're doing it for themselves or for another dude's platform. Like if you think you're sexy, like twerking in a bikini, like that's cool. Again, I think it's important to be conscious of the people who are only finding you sexy because of your fat and who would not have your best health in mind. And I don't think that any fat girl or girls in general posting videos or pictures of themselves in bikinis automatically equals a sexual video. Like clearly not. And it's unfortunate that a lot of those videos do get taken down when they're just like legitimately showing off clothes and bikinis. But if the videos that are on a platform mostly for younger kids clearly have a more sexual, fetishized tone to them, and are enticing and normalizing essentially fetishization of obese bodies, I don't know that I'd say it's appropriate on those apps. But again, it's so hard to call out and distinguish because pages like this will sit there and say, oh, they're just body positive. They just want a safe space for everyone. Not everyone, though. You notice that the people are clearly of like a certain age, certain weight, don't have mobility issues. Kind of like I spoke about in a different video, I feel like the rhetoric around body positivity has been really hijacked to solely talk about vanity and attraction, and even here it's just like so hypersexual. I just don't understand trying to mask what is ultimately fetishization as body positivity. Like there's a lot more people outside of obese women who could benefit from the general or original concept of body positivity and, trying to be healthy and loving yourself and respecting yourself at every stage to be the best version of yourself that you can. It's not just fat women in bikinis dancing. But if you're not going to have any more complexity to your page and your videos, then, oh, I am an obese woman who is sexy and that's all you're going to get is sexualized obese videos. I mean, maybe you need to think about going to the websites where people can click on that box like a category on an adult website instead of putting it on TikTok and masking it as empowerment. It's just a lot of contradictory messaging. So one of the big accounts that I've seen on TikTok is this one here called Pearadise. Alan Roberts actually shared a video of this page a while back on his Instagram asking what everyone thought and to put it in the comments. And I noticed that a few commenters, along with myself, thought it was really glaringly weird, like the one thinner dude, the owner and creator of Pearadise. Surrounded by obese women was this one guy. I think this is a great example of potential fetishization. This isn't just obese women living and existing. I feel like the way that Pearadise's page is run as well is very enticing and inviting. Like, check out our websites and creating direct links to their Discord. So taking people off of an app that's meant to be, like, I guess family friendly, you would say, onto a Discord where allegedly you have to be like 18 plus, you have to show your ID before you can actually get into the Discord. So going from the family-friendly venue to a venue that is heavily fetishized and most likely has that potentially odd power dynamic that we were talking about earlier, that clearly normalizes unhealthy lifestyles. Paradise's hashtags and videos repeatedly say that they are all about body positivity and they are open for all. You know, when it comes to an enabling relationship, we could consider these videos an example. Health risks aside, you're getting coaxed into performing essentially a fetish video for someone else's engagement so that ultimately they can get more very specific women to join in on the party. It just seems like this guy's idea of supporting bigger women is like laser-like focused. Like partying, drinking, women in bikinis constantly, doing the cannonball checks, doing the chair checks, like, oh, let's see if they can fit in this chair. Surrounding yourself with only extremely unhealthy and large women just because sexually you're attracted to them, and normalizing it and encouraging and thinking like, hey, come join us, maybe you can come to our house. Like, putting people in a house especially, he keeps reiterating and saying this house is a safe space, this party house. At a glance, just the concept of putting a bunch of people in a house seems sketchy. I feel like there's always going to be some kind of drama or something odd that happens. Like, I'm getting a lot of, I was trying to think what it would look like with, as I say, like straight-sized people. I'm thinking a lot about the Playboy Mansion and Hugh Hefner, but because I keep reiterating that it's positive, and if you were to say something like, well, no, body positivity would mean caring about your health, trying to lose some weight, trying to get your wellness, you know, mentally, spiritually, and physically in order, not just like drinking and showing off yourself doing cannonballs to cater to other people's sexual preferences, and it's considered fat phobic. And this is where I almost feel that like the opposite of fat phobic is fetishization. Like, I don't understand why that's seemingly the goal here of what's to be normalized. Let me know what you guys think. And going back to your worth is more than just how you look. Well, isn't your worth or your value more than just how big of a cannonball you can make or how tightly you can squeeze into this chair for some other dude's platform? And I think what's really sketchy at the root of this is that the intention is not honest. When you're not honest in your intentions and you're, again, taking people off of an app into a Discord, bringing them into a physical house where there's a lot of drinking and partying going on, like, and again, the intention's not honest from the get-go. It's just kind of like sneaky, shady a bit. Oh, like, we're a safe space, we're positive. That's where some actual harm can happen. I feel like a lot of people involved in this page are like working double time to enable these negative behaviors. Like, if this dude rocked up in Dr. Now's office, he would straight up be like, you are an enabler. You are not healthy for these women. Now, if you search Pearadise on TikTok, there are going to be some videos and comments that come up that talk about some alleged essay about a couple girls who previously used to hang out at the house. It does sound really horrible and unfortunate, and I'm glad that those people are not in the situation anymore. But again, all I can say is that it's alleged because there's really not too much information on it, and we don't really know what's happened. So I don't really want to speculate when it comes to SA. Again, this is just alleged. I'm not saying that anything specifically happened. Just be aware that if you search that, it could possibly come up. So another example would be Tammy Slaton. Keeping someone bound to an unhealthy lifestyle just because you get off to it, just because you get off to people having health issues, I don't think is safe. You're not just getting off on women having curves. you're getting off on someone who is reliant on you, who is going to have mobility issues or already does have mobility issues, who needs assistance breathing because of their obesity, whose life will ultimately be affected because of their obesity, that you want to maintain or have them gain. Not to mention the fact they've been putting it on the internet as a show. You know, one of the songs that this guy had and one of the captions was, "Hope someone's problem will be mine." Personally, I think it's healthier to come together and support each other should any problems arise, not that you're inflicting another problem on someone else, not to keep someone unhealthy because you want to be both their grim reaper and their savior. I do want to mention as well that a big part of kink safety that I'm sure a lot of people are aware of is people being aware of like risks and consent. I can't help but feel that the risks directly involved with fat fetishism, while they might come later, are really ignored because of a lot of the rhetoric around health at every size and body positivity now. I do think that people can be discriminated against on certain legit levels due to their weight. I do think that there are people in this world who are rude to people just because a person's fat, which I don't think is right or cool. But there's a difference between treating someone who is obese with respect and only seeing their obesity because you get off to it. Like in a doctor's office setting or a therapist's office, a lot of these people would be considered enablers. Conversely, they'd probably be saying that the women in this situation are being codependent, or they like having the enabler around so that they can also stay in this toxic relationship. We would probably hear that these women need to take accountability and stop normalizing these unhealthy behaviors or fetishization under the guise of body positivity. Just because you like someone who is larger or plus size doesn't mean there's this like hypersexual motive there. But if someone relies on you being obese to get that sexual satisfaction, if someone relies on you being obese to hang out with you, like in this house, or to party with you, to be included in that group, that's a problem. I heard recently that a lot of us see our future selves the same way that we see a stranger because we cannot envision what our future self would look like. I don't know if this goes beyond just people who have a fat fetish, but more like the body positive health at every size, people who want to like maintain their obesity in general. Like they can't visualize into the future. It's not just like, oh, you have a kink and you're using a safe word right now in this moment. It's like you are actively doing something that is going to damage you in ways that you cannot perceive because you are distancing yourself. You are not taking the time to think about who your future self is. And it's going to be even harder for you to think about your mental, physical, spiritual health, your overall wellness for your future self when you are catering to the sexual preference of someone else because you think that that's body positivity and love and empowerment. When a lot of these women, even the ones who are not involved in like the fetishization stuff, like just in general, whenever they get to their 30s and they're no longer going to be able to wear heels, they're no longer going to be able to do cannonballs and run around, and it's going to be really difficult to walk because your arthritis is going to kick in and there's no blood work for arthritis, or you have a really debilitating injury that it's really hard to recover from, then it's like, dang, are those dudes still going to be around? Their world is going to come crashing down on them because they are basing their value and their worth on their obesity. Their identity is based on their obesity. Overall health and safety goes beyond things that are happening now. Your overall wellness is more than just looking at yourself through the lens of another guy's page or through the lens of having these dudes surrounding you who are encouraging you to drink and maintain your unhealthy lifestyle. I still maintain if you want to be body positive, that means prioritizing all aspects of your health. You know, fetishization and objectification can be dangerous and unhealthy. It's normalizing unhealthy things, and in the long run, it can be really unhealthy. I think it's best to find empowerment through your own self and your own complex identity. And I think it's important to remember as well that a lot of these women, like take Amberlynn Reed and Becky, for example, like we have been saying for a long time that Becky is clearly enabling Amber's behavior, but it's also very clear that Amber was really manipulative, or she was really good at manipulating people, treating people in a way to get what she wanted so that she could continue in her unhealthy lifestyle. So I'm not trying to say that these women are like completely innocent or devoid of any responsibility. Ideally, everyone involved would take a step back and think, oh, am I normalizing and presenting a empowering relationship or situation, or am I normalizing something that's going to enable negative situations? I think we've seen with a lot of people, though, that if the intention is kind of off kilter, a lot of us can feel that, and that's why we end up commenting on it, and it seems like really odd to us. Overall, I'd like to know what you think. Was there anything that I may have left out? Where do you draw the line between an enabling relationship or an empowering relationship? And what do you think about these kind of videos being on TikTok and Instagram? I'd love to know y'all's thoughts, and wherever you're in the world, I hope you're having a beautiful day. Bye!